Yes. All right. Welcome back to another episode of, what's this called again? ACT, Root to Fruit. And my name is Marcel. I am working really hard to wrap my hands around the roots of the contextual behavioral sciences so that us non-congenital behaviorists can make sense of this work and be as precise as possible and deliver the most pristine fruits possible to our clients. So today I am joined by the only person I think I've probably ever met who had a pin that was fashioned after them. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I have no idea what you're
So when I was at, I don't remember if it was in Sevilla or Montreal. I was in a FAP intensive with a gentleman named Brett. And
now I know.
Okay, and he had and we did some work together, you know, in the experiential side, and he had a pin on that said something about Miranda. I don't remember what, but it was admiring.
It either said friends with Miranda or it might have said it's all about Miranda.
No, I think it was friends of Miranda.
Okay.
And I thought it was like a 12-step thing, you know, because they say friends of Bill W for the. But anyways, I was like, I got to meet this woman, and then so you thoroughly lived up to the pin expectations.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I had forgotten about that, and I remember being unbelievably self-conscious about that. It was really just some friends of mine, including Brett Howard, celebrating that I think that was my first year as member at large of the ACBS board.
Yeah.
And I felt massively inadequate to the task. And so the game for them, the whole conference was, this is my rise to power, you know.
And look at you now. Let me thoroughly introduce you, President-Elect Dr. Morris. Okay, so Miranda Morris is a psychologist in the DC area. You have a practice in Bethesda, True North, and I will put a link to that in the description. And you have been a part of the Association for Contextual Behavioral Sciences for a while now.
Yeah, over 10 years now.
Yeah, you started the Mid-Atlantic chapter, correct?
Yes, with a lovely group of people, and it's alive and well.
Yeah, and you're a rock star.
I'm not sure that I would go with that latter bit, but I did help start the Mid-Atlantic chapter. And I do spend a lot of time engaging with ACBS-related initiatives and undertakings.
When you first arrived to the contextual behavioral sciences, where had you been, and what drew you to them?
So I was originally trained in, sort of old school mainstream cognitive behavioral therapy, and then also cognitive processing therapy, which is a cognitive behavioral trauma therapy. And I was drawn to both because I really felt that these models would give me the sentences to say to be a good therapist. Right. And there were worksheets too, which, was additionally heartening and emboldening. And what I found was that I just couldn't make CBT work. I just didn't do it effectively with clients. I'm not good at structuring sessions in the way that my supervisors wanted me to. And I am personally terrible at thought refutation and restructuring. My thinking just doesn't move.
Yeah.
I did, however, really like CPT because I liked the exposure part and I liked working with trauma survivors. And it was actually in the lab or in our community clinic, our trauma clinic, that I stumbled across an unbound version of Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life.
Interesting.
First manual. And I read the first chapter and I thought, oh, so this is how it works.
Yeah.
And I was sold.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I can relate to the, traditional CBT just not being a good fit. And I oftentimes the thought refutation, I kind of feel like I'm litigating a little bit.
Yeah. and who wins and who loses.
Yeah.
And I always lose.
What was your experience of really metabolizing the underpinnings of this work?
I started reading a lot.
Okay.
And I looked for opportunities to do training, but that was a long time ago and it wasn't available. It was soon thereafter that I would move to the DC area. We didn't have a lot of peer-reviewed folks coming through. And so I joined a peer support group or a peer consultation group, mindfulness-based therapists. And the ACT people in that group, the group sort of split.
Yeah.
And we started teaching each other. And then as we were able to establish a chapter, set ourselves up in such a way that we could start inviting peer-reviewed folks to come. Okay. Which is very expensive, right? And scary when you're sort of putting your own money on the line, which is how we started. And so we agreed that we would all become real students of ACT and contextual behavioral science. And we would become our own sort of teachers and trainers.
Yeah. And did the behavioral talk, did that make sense to you when you picked this up?
Some. I mean, I had studied behaviorism some in college, which I don't really think is adequate, a little bit in graduate school. Yeah. But I find it absolutely fascinating. Okay. So while I'm not sure that I was born into this tribe, because I never really fully got it, the cognitive behavioral therapy made more sense to me in some ways than the behavioral. I have since become just a voracious reader of stuff having to do with behaviorism and functional contextualism and RFT. Okay. Right? I want to know that stuff. And I don't think that my language skills will ever catch up. Yeah. I speak heavily accented RFT and behaviorism. Yeah. But it makes sense to me and I love it. And it feels really important to me to share it with people. Right. Yeah. Like it's not enough. I think this maybe isn't fair, but I think ACT on its own, is kind of lacking if you don't have the foundations, if you don't have the roots. Yeah. Well, you campaigned on Make CBS Great Again, didn't you, for your presidential? Dang it. How did I miss that one?
My experience is if you're familiar with the processes of ACT and you're kind of working in that, you're practicing the techniques that are mindfulness based techniques. Now, do you know when to use them and how to use them? Probably not. I don't. So, right? I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm just. Part of the question is, what's the danger of just saying I practice mindfulness-based therapy, and I have these techniques that I use that are.
I'm not really sure what people are doing when they say I practice mindfulness-based therapy. I mean, mindfulness, as you may have noticed, is super trendy. It is hard to find a therapist who isn't saying, oh yeah, I do mindfulness work. And I'm sure some of them are doing it really well and some are, kind of doing a light sprinkling. Yeah. Or maybe not doing it very skillfully. I have to assume that range exists. Yeah. What I think distinguishes contextual behavioral practitioners from kind of that way of working is that I think that we, because of our functional contextual roots and our behavioral roots, when we're teaching people mindfulness and various mindful awareness skills or attentional flexibility skills, we're doing it with function in mind. Yeah. Right. I don't teach people mindfulness so that they can say, I practice mindfulness. Right. I look for different ways to teach people mindful awareness skills because I have a particular function or functions in mind. Yeah. Right. I want them to be able to move their attention when they need to move their attention, right, out of the past, out of the future, to the present moment. I want them to be able to attune to, right, what is actually available in a given moment in their lives. I mean, mindfulness is really about being able to control your attention, right? And in so doing, being able to show up where you need to show up, when you need to show up there, and do what you need to do. So I'm very pragmatic about it, and don't even always call it mindfulness with clients, like clients who think it's really woo-woo. I talk about attentional flexibility. I talk about awareness. Yeah, it's become become pretty watered down. It's super watered down. And there are a lot of legitimate criticisms out there for how Western psychology is using it. And I really try to use, attentional flexibility, awareness, context sensitivity, that kind of stuff. Like that's what I'm teaching, so that people can make change, so that they can, so that they can get better at seeing what actually happens in their lives. Right? You know how human beings have this unfortunate way of doing the same thing again and again, even though it doesn't work?
No, not at all.
I know, you've probably never done that. Like, we're not good at seeing what actually happens as a consequence or a function of our behavior.
Yeah.
Right? If you can enhance people's ability to get present and pay attention, right? It's like turning the lights on. Oh, that's amazing. Every time I yell at my husband, he withdraws. How did I not notice that for 15 years?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think sort of mindfulness-based therapy, I'm going to assume that people are coming from a different place. Not a bad place, but I don't think that they're thinking in terms of function and context.
Could you talk more about learning about function as a therapist, and what worked for you to start to pick that up?
So I think about function. Well, I mean, I'll say, like, I'm super self-conscious. Again, right? Not my first language. So I'm always worried that I'm going to say this wrong. So hold this all lightly.
Yeah.
But what I have gone from, because of sort of my basic training in behaviorism, gone from understanding the function of, say, behaviors, right? The consequences of behaviors as something to think about and sometimes target in therapy, to this broader view of function. And this is the really fun part, right? The function of nonverbal behavior, or rather of verbal behavior, or internal or private behavior, right? The function of buying into particular thoughts, right? Or feelings or sensations, as really the cool work that we do, right? So I think about it a couple of different ways, right? There are stories and thoughts that we have in our heads that sort of seem to have a function, right? We sometimes they function to control us, or you could say, right, we buy into them, and therefore, right, they have the function of controlling us. And when you really start looking at kind of verbal behavior and its functions, it opens up this incredibly open, curious space wherein, like, I find now my lead question is, and I don't necessarily phrase it this way, is sort of something like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Right? So when my client says, I really want to do that differently, I don't know what to do. Right? What I want to talk about is, what does that mean? I don't know what to do. Tell me about, I don't know what to do. Right? Or when a client says, well, you're the pro, that's what I pay you for. It's a great opportunity to just bring complete curiosity to that. Like, what's inside of that? What's inside of that's what I pay you for? Right? Like these snippets of language, these words, these phrases, these colloquialisms that are just, deep with meaning.
Yeah.
And I think that my current infatuation with function is what sort of got me thinking that way, right? Take nothing at face value, right? Language isn't literal anyway, right? It's all pretty arbitrary. And so thinking in terms of function invites you to look at, like, what's going on here, what's happening, as opposed to having kind of the ordinary conversation.
Okay. And doing that in the therapy office, while being attuned to pacing and what the client is needing, or not needing, but what's going to help the client.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. It's a lot to juggle.
It is, but I have to say, one of the other sort of side benefits is it really is a great way to slow down. And I've got a lot of very analytical, talky, thinky clients. And I think it was Robin Walser who said in a workshop once, when you've got a client, who's going a mile a minute, hurry up and slow down.
Yeah.
right? And so just sort of taking a little piece and saying, can we just stay with this?
Mm-hmm.
Can we get inside this idea or this, right? Whatever it is. Maybe it's a feeling or a sensation.
Yeah.
I think we derive more in terms of sort of workable stuff out of that work than we do in trying to sort of keep up, right? Or hit everything or do a lot of interventions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And so I'm wondering if maybe, we had talked earlier, the last time we talked about, I think the Imposter Syndrome panel you're going to be on.
Yes.
And I wonder if we could kind of maybe talk a little bit about that and unpack a little bit of the function of that rule.
Oh, yeah. Well, so I and a friend did an imposterism workshop in Dublin, and now we're doing a panel, different groups doing a panel.
Mm-hmm.
Now I anticipate doing something on imposterism like every year at World Conference, should I be so lucky? Because it is certainly my thing, right?
Yeah.
Of sort of like my top 3 most oppressive old narratives.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fraud. I don't know what I'm doing. Is it's staying strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the function piece is really interesting because I find that there's a tremendous tension in kind of the pull, right? Like one of the functions for me when I get bought into it is say no to whatever the opportunity is. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not good enough. I'm not capable. Steve Hayes will be in the audience and I'll make a fool of myself,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Who's that?
Yeah, that guy. Exactly. And understanding that, right? Understanding that imposterism, the function of that whole narrative and all of its many little versions is to, if I buy it, right, is to keep my life really small, is to not take risks, right? For me, it's become an almost automatic say yes.
Okay.
Right. So I feel the I'm not good enough thing. And I kind of go, oh, shit, now I have to say yes. Uh-huh. Right. It's just, I mean, I don't want to let it get like, formulaic or to become a rule. But I think that understanding function has helped me respond much more effectively to my own imposterism. Mm-hmm. It's also given me kind of an affection for it. Right. Like I understand that whatever it is, my imposter is really just trying to keep me from being humiliated.
Yeah. Protect.
Right. I mean, there's a lot in there. It's just, I really don't want to make an ass of myself. And I imagine it's just a matter of time.
Mm-hmm. So protection, control.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's kind of, I had the image of like, drawing your sword out as soon as someone kind of came at you to ask you to do something.
Like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay away.
Yeah. And with me sort of cowering behind it.
Yeah.
Right. Really thinking like, I can't do this. I cannot do, something bad will happen if I do this.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's sort of sweet, if not a little misguided. And there are other cool things inside of it, right? I mean, I am a relentless student of contextual behavioral science.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like, okay, so that's a pretty good deal, right? If this makes me read RFT and, some of the behaviorism books that I have in my bookshelf, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my version is a little bit more like they're going to see that I don't belong,
Oh yeah.
And politely ask me to leave. Yeah. Along the same lines though. And it's a big shame-bound issue for us, I think.
It is certainly that for me. Yeah. Right? I mean, unambiguously, I am not good enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that for me cuts across all domains. This is, I mean, I talk about it in ACBS when it, about like training or being a therapist, but, I'm also an inadequate mother and an inadequate friend and an inadequate citizen, right? I mean, the list goes on. Yeah. Not good enough. Shouldn't really be here. And it may be not really wanted. So yeah.
We're relating on this, and I feel safe with you to also, I appreciate your talking about that. And I'm wondering how you go about with clients talking about these things. in terms of not necessarily like, I mean, sharing, but just like as far as letting them know that you know, that a not good enough tale is part of everybody's experience.
I'm very self-disclosing with my clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. There's a few exceptions, of course, where I have reason to believe that that it's sharing this kind of thing about myself is going to land funny, and the client is going to, you know, get all twisted up in, you know, Miranda doesn't, you know, self-loathing better than I do, right? Or something.
Yeah.
But for the most part, right, barring real concerns, I share this stuff with my clients.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's important because I mean, our clients, they often idealize us and they think that we've got it all together. And I think that that's often an impediment, right? Like they're hearing whatever I'm trying to impart through kind of a filter of Miranda has a perfect life. And so without taking too much of their time to tell them about how imperfect my life is, right? I think it's important for them to understand that I struggle in general, and right, depending on what we're talking about, the ways in which I struggle.
Yeah.
I often find myself saying, I don't know a lot of women who don't. Right. It often becomes a conversation for me with my female clients about sort of gender and feeling not good enough. And I have yet to see someone treat that as minimizing. It's more like, really, you too? And I often will also invite them to kind of have conversations with people about it. You know, in the imposterism literature, right, there's a lot of sort of theoretical stuff. In other words, stuff that people made up about what should help. But what little data there is really seems to suggest that the only thing that I think is measurably helpful, and I could be off here, but the only thing that seems to really help is when someone who is senior to you in position in some sense reveals to you that they also have imposterism, right? So when the person that you admire or think well of says, oh yeah, I feel like a fraud all the time. Yeah. Right. That normalizing is really helpful for people.
Yeah. Okay.
Isn't that something, right? Like it ain't, well, it's not thought restructuring, and it's not challenging, and it's not finding evidence, you know, that you're not an imposter. You know, Google it. The suggestions are terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Write down all the reasons that you're not an imposter, right? I mean, that's just like an exercise in nausea.
Yeah.
Right. I could do that. It would horrify me.
I think us in the ACT community, FAP community, it's more like write down all the reasons you are an imposter. That's
like, right, and wrap yourself around that,
yes.
And carry it with you lovingly.
Put one of those boards on and walk down the side of the road.
Right. No, the sticker will not suffice. I'm going to need a whole sandwich board up here. Are all the ways in which I'm a fake and a fraud, and you don't know. And if you did know, then you would.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I guess I'm curious about one of the other traps in terms of learning this, and that's like explaining to clients things.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge to combine kind of, I guess, talk therapy, right? Even if we're just talking here about self-disclosure, and finding a way to help it to sort of create an experience in that moment, right? Instead of explaining away, to instead perhaps invite a client to just sit with, like, what's it like for you and me talking about this right now? Both of us feeling like frauds. How's that showing up for you? Yeah. Like, what's it like just being present to it, right? Like just staying with, how is this? How is this? How is this? Like maybe we could just be quiet with this for a little bit and just kind of notice how it moves around inside. I like, you know, one of the things that's nice about the self-disclosure piece is it's a nice way to do the work with the client. Right? Instead of saying, hey, you know, you stay in those feelings. What if we stayed here for a bit? I'm right here with you. Yeah,
that's what I was drawn to ACT initially by, was the language and literature of just us being the same as our clients. That were, you know, it wasn't just like explaining client experience as a separate entity or species.
Right. There's very little that my clients bring me that I don't recognize. Right. I mean, I have a trauma history. I have a depression history. I have plenty of anxiety. I anticipate more moving forward, right? I've had serious relationship problems. Like I'm not a nail biter. That I don't get nail biting. But other than that,
yeah.
And so it's been wonderful for me to feel like, oh yeah, I didn't have to like become a perfect person in order to be a therapist, which was the original idea, right? Go to grad school and, figure it out, and then, return triumphant and whole, and then help other people.
Yes. I'm raising my hand because I can relate.
Raising it. You too, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I wish that, and I can't speak for all graduate programs. I've only been in a couple, but I wish that there was more acknowledgement of that common phenomena,
Yeah.
Let's just talk about it. How, I mean, not everybody's drawn because of that. I'm not going to say that's a general, but we are drawn for a reason to this profession, whether it's, certain whatever. And so, I don't know, that's just my sidebar.
I think most of us were looking for a way to be okay, right? And this is the way that we chose, right? And we thought that they would give us the recipe, and there's no recipe.
And we spent a few weeks there, and we're like, these people do not have the fucking recipe.
Like, when are you guys gonna tell us how to not be messed up? Right? That's really why I'm here. Yeah.
God.
I wish we started with that, because I often will hear younger therapists or beginning therapists, not necessarily younger, but early career therapists, often are working very hard to sort of say that they're okay, right? Or to sort of say like, well, I know that sounds insecure and I shouldn't do that, or I probably, like they'll qualify a lot of their behavior in a way that seems to be saying, like, I want you, Miranda, to know that I'm okay. And what I want to say to them is like, I don't need you to be okay. In fact, I wish you would stop trying to be okay. I wish you would just be you, because this would be so much more fun.
Yeah.
But I totally understand it, right? I wanted everyone to think that I, had it together.
Yeah, that's one.
I still do. I just, looks a little different now.
You reminded me of my I need to take a break for a PSA here, public service announcement. That's don't take yourselves too damn seriously. That's my public service announcement.
That's great. I think we should get buttons like that for maybe for WorldCon.
So do you teach, or you've taught therapy courses in the past?
I teach clinicians.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
So what book would you, if you're teaching a master's level course, what book are you going to have, a book or books are you going to assign for the course?
For a master's level course? Introductory
therapy class.
So honestly, I would start with books written for lay people. Okay. I just think that's
like Get Out of Your Mind?
I still really like Get Out of Your
Mind. But you're saying read books for lay people?
Read books for lay people.
Okay.
Right. And so for me, there's a range. If someone really wants something immediate and accessible and short, like I people really like The Happiness Trap. My clients really like Be Mighty, which is for women. It's aimed at women. Jill Stoddard. And then there's some that are sort of specific to difficulties. Like Emily Sandoz has a really cool body image disorder one, right? Like, so those are kind of easier ways in. And then sort of depending beyond that, like Steve's book, Liberated Mind, which is very, very like dense, right? Some people, they want the dense things. So I send them that way.
Okay. So you're more likely to get them in the door, and then
get them inside, right? Like a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense, right? And you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, it doesn't make sense until you do it. Like this notion of letting go is so counterintuitive and scary.
Yeah.
So my sister is also an ACT therapist, and the day that she said she really got it, she used to kind of get upset about things pretty easily, right? She'd get angry and stressed, and so she was leaving work, and she put her laptop on the hood of her car and thought, this isn't a good idea. got in her car and drove away, right? Oops, right? And realized 2 blocks away that her laptop had flown off her car. She went back to find it. It was gone. And she called me and I said, oh my gosh, do you want me to go back to work with you and help you find it? And she said, no, I was really upset for a minute. And then I realized that that was just an old story that said you should be really upset with yourself when you lose your laptop, right? So stupidly. Yeah. She said, and then I realized I don't really feel like spending any more time like that. So never mind. Right. And that was when she was like, oh, act. Right. Just this decision of, I just don't want to spend my day being mad at myself for a simple mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that when we're doing that, it's much easier to help our clients troubleshoot, because once you run out of the cute metaphors and exercises, right? Once you run out, you're going to just kind of go, well, okay, wait, we did that one and we did this one, and plenty of them are worth repeating. But like, you kind of need to, I think you need to get stuck in it a bunch yourself.
Yes.
To understand, like, oh, I know what mud you're in.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, yeah. You think that if you're not upset about this, then you're a bad person. Right. I recognize that one. Okay. How do we kind of get inside of that and loosen it up?
Yeah. I can vividly remember doing something like eating a pint of ice cream when I'm frustrated. And being like, I was just talking to a client about, letting go 2 days ago. And, here I am just not letting go.
Right? It's like, oh, here I go again. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you put that. The thing that brings up for me is a quote by Charlie Parker, the saxophone player.
Yeah.
He said, if you don't live it, it's not going to come out of your horn.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's I guess, as the more I dig in here, the more I see it's a big undertaking. This is a radical conversion from status quo. Yeah.
This is totally unnatural.
Yeah.
What we are asking people to do and what we are asking ourselves to do is totally unnatural, right? Move towards pain. What?
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding me. Like, where in the ancestral environment was that a good idea? The fact that it's, being embarrassed as opposed to getting eaten is, lost on our poor brains.
Yeah.
Right? Attending, and even just, in this culture that we live in, right? Like paying attention to what's available now. Maybe it's so you can appreciate it. Maybe it's so you can make change, like for whatever reason. Like we're built to be out in the future, right? Either reworking the past and learning from it, or out in the future planning.
Yeah.
And we just have no intuitive sense of like, well, this isn't useful right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm thinking about as you say this is one of the coolest things for me about ACBS, and I have belonged to other professional organizations before. I don't belong to any others now, except, well, ABAI, but that's recent. But for the longest time, AAA, the behavior analyst, right? And AAA, because and actually AARP at this rate.
Actually, AAA is. I just don't want to make a plug for them because they are pretty terrible agency. So if you have options, go with another roadside.
That's your other
PSA.
Please. Yeah. That may be the most important thing.
They do some terrible lobbying. It's just, anyways. Okay, so yeah.
But one of the things, and I totally didn't see this coming with ACBS, right? I joined because I wanted access to resources and training. And what I realized is that like probably more than half of my friends, like my real friends, are ACBS people.
Yeah.
I had no idea that you could be friends with colleagues.
Yeah.
But I think because everyone is doing what you and I are talking about, really like trying to live this, right? And it's coming out of our horns.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh my gosh, I love these people.
Yeah.
And, so much of what I do is an opportunity really just to hang out. Right? Like, yeah, let's do a task force. Who's on it?
I need to do what I need to do is an episode on being in relationship with those who aren't CBSers.
Oh yeah, you're going to want a trauma person for that. Yeah.
Because I don't know, my experience, or especially after my first boot camp was like, I just like recognized everyone in my life and how non-contextually, functional contextually they were living.
Yeah.
And really it was, I mean, it's me, but so. Yeah.
It's usually pretty benign, but sometimes it makes conversations very difficult.
So let's talk more about the community aspects. You, what, I don't know. I want to hear more about your experience in the peer supervision group, and how that has benefited your work.
So our peer group, when I think we started out pretty small. We now have quite a few people,
Okay.
right? Yeah, like I think we have 25 people.
Wow. And you're still meeting.
We are. We're online right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it really what it is it's almost like, I guess I think of it as like an entryway to ACBS for people, because I'm always inviting people to join,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's way too big. My office will not, like we squeeze in at 9.
You model their experiential work happens every time, generally.
It really ranges. It depends on who's there, because experience level ranges from, trainer to brand new person who still doesn't know what all 6 core processes are.
Okay.
And so sort of how we spend our time varies, but my favorite groups are the ones in which we have either talked about our own stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Like being bored with clients, not liking clients,
Mm-hmm.
Being afraid to be more assertive with clients. Like that's what I really like.
Yeah.
I like that work. And we've also incorporated some bits of improv at times, right? Where, and this is really fun to do. We don't do this enough, where we'll sort of tap in and out, where you've got a therapist and a client.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually belong to another peer group where we are doing this online.
Mm-hmm.
So that as soon as the therapist either, hits a high note or gets stuck or just raises their hand, you just tap them out.
Okay.
And another person steps in. They do this in improv,
That's great.
right?
Like
much. And what it does is it means you're not gonna get stuck. You're not gonna get trapped.
Yeah.
And you're encouraged to just play, right? Improvise.
Love it.
Just, try a little diffusion here. Okay. Yeah. Does someone want to like move in with some maybe acceptance piece over here? Okay. Yeah, I'll do it. Tap them out.
Yeah.
With this really kind of loving, supportive, I've got your back.
That's great.
Kind of context for that, which it's I used to hate doing role plays in a group setting, and now I think it's so fun.
Yeah.
Right. Don't be good. Don't be skillful. Experiment.
Yeah.
And don't worry. All you have to do is raise your hand and you're gone. Or you do something good and you're gone. Or you look stuck and you're saved. So that, I think, in terms of peer group stuff, that's what makes it possible to take a group of people, because I am one of the more advanced people in the group, but I'm not teaching. That's what I'm irrelevant in a sense. That's what makes it possible for peers to teach each other ACT, which is important, because there are lots of places where you are not going to find much of an ACT community. You don't see peer review trainers rolling through very often. The online training thing is relatively new. Like sometimes we have to teach ourselves. And I think that our group has done that. I'm so proud of us, right? Yeah. We taught each other to be ACT therapists, and then we started teaching each other to be ACT trainers. One of the things we did early on, another woman who's involved in the group fronted some money because she could, not a whole bunch though, to just reserve a space and have a training. And we reached out to Sonia Batten, who then connected us with Matt Villatt and Jen Villatt. Yeah. And the 3 of them came and they did a workshop for us, which was fabulous. Yeah. Right. And with registration, right, we were able to cover our costs. I mean, it was a risk, right? Especially at a time when we weren't sure what interest would be. But, part of it was the goodwill. A big part of it was their goodwill, saying, we'll do this really inexpensively, right? If we don't get an honorarium, we're okay, pay our travel. We were able to pay them an honorarium, which was wonderful. But I think sometimes you have to be kind of bold in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a big stumbling block for a lot of people, whether it's peer group or chapter or SIG. People sort of say, I don't really know what to do. And there's not a single answer for that, but in a broad sense, I think it's take some risks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And find people who will work with you.
Yeah.
Right. Find people who will help you. I think I got really lucky that I happened to be with people who were also interested in making things happen.
Yeah, we feed off of each other.
Yeah.
I did some consultation with various folks in the community, and that was really helpful. And then I got more involved with the online peer supervision group, which I think is available to any ACBS member. And
who's leading that?
There's two of them, and I don't know. I will.
There have been a number of them over the years.
They're free.
They're great.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's a great way to get in. They meet every other week, and I don't know who organizes it. I think ACBS pays for the Zoom, and they have one that meets at in United States time. It meets at in the morning, in the middle of the night, because it's somewhere else, and then the other one is on Fridays at 9, and it's a great group. It's wonderful. It's an amazing way to practice and learn, and they do some great stuff.
And to meet people from sometimes all over the world.
All over the world.
Yeah. The one tricky part is it's nice to have people in your area, right? Yeah. Like I can almost always refer to ACT people here, which was not true 10 years ago.
No. And how awesome is that?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing, right? Like we're speaking the same language. Yeah. The clients are sort of, coming back and forth, like, like especially if it's a couple or something, right? Like they're both doing the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. Or the individual work isn't undermining the couple's work, whatever.
Yeah.
Which I think is just great. And I get to spend more time with people that I really like.
And you put a lot of yourself into that community there. And I could imagine it feels very rewarding to see.
It's like my baby.
Yeah.
I love it. Right. Like, because part of why we started becoming really serious about knowing this stuff is because we needed to go out and do trainings. We needed to raise money for the chapter. We took our mission seriously, right? Yeah. To disseminate. And that turned into growing a community.
Yeah. So the improv thing is like the core. The corollary is kind of like, just fall on your face. That's what you got to do to learn.
Totally. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, right? There's this whole notion in improv of like, don't try to be funny. Don't try to do it a particular way. Yeah. Welcome mistakes. Sometimes those are the best opportunities.
Yeah.
Right. And it's low stakes.
Yeah.
And I think that that it's a great way to sort of play with ACT concepts. Mm-hmm. Right. When you have permission or when you've given it to yourself or have been given permission to like, don't worry about it. Make a mistake, say something really stupid, do a really stupid diffusion technique just so that we can sort of see what happens with a really stupid diffusion technique, right? Because it's all good. It's all stuff to learn from.
What would Joanne say when you would say something like, it's all good?
I would never say that to Joanne. She was my supervisor.
I know.
Right? No way. Although I don't think she would disagree with this approach to doing
I know.
workshops or peer supervision, right? Like just get in there and just freaking do something. I think she'd probably endorse that. What do you think?
Yeah, she would. I think she would say something. I don't know if it's all good. What does that mean?
Like, what does that mean? I don't know. Never mind.
God, I love her, and that's why
I do too.
Yeah, that's why I'm. So yeah, and actually, she sat down with me, Tella, whatever this is, and I felt so pumped up after talking to her, and it was just so awesome. I'm so excited to share that with everybody.
Yeah, I can't wait to. I really want to hear that episode.
Yeah.
She's so smart.
Yeah. And
so pragmatic.
Yeah.
And so she's really so no bullshit. It's she's just the supervisor I needed.
Yeah. So okay. So I just want to finish my. I didn't find the community in my near vicinity that I was craving, and so I just did trainings and this and that, and it was really helpful. if you're out there listening and you're alone in your community, find your people somehow. And I know that you are more than available for advice on organizing chapters, Miranda, and feedback on
Totally.
on anything having to do with
strategies for getting a trainer to come to your area, which is a good way to get ACT interested people in the same room, quote unquote, real or virtual.
Yeah.
So you can start talking to folks. Yeah. And I think the online option, I didn't think that was going to work because I hate Zoom, but I've gotten over it.
Yeah.
Right. It's fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been fun.
Yes, it has.
I
always like talking to you.
Yeah, I really enjoy talking to you too, and hopefully we'll do some more improv in the future. And the other thing too, I just want to mention as we wrap up here is I think you're such a awesome testament to, like, you know, just the variety within this work, and in terms of finding your style. You know, I feel you as having this really genuine Miranda Morris style that you. You know, it's just robust, and this work, we don't all have to be a certain person or pretend to be a certain person to do this work, you know, or affect some kind of behavior. No,
I spent years trying to be Robin Walser. Yeah. I'm still trying to be Robin Walser, but it's not working.
No.
So I'm just, but and we need a million different voices.
Yeah. I agree.
So I thank you for that feedback. That's really nice.
Yeah. So I'm going to post a link and information to your private practice up north in Bethesda.
True North. And I kind of like up north. That's cute. We were joking today that we should have named the practice Nice and Normal because we were trying to identify our clinical style. So we're like, well, nice and normal. Yeah. But it's actually True North. We're stuck with that. And people are welcome to reach out to me for anything, including, right, like, oh, I'm in the DC area or I'm in the Mid-Atlantic and I'm interested in the chapter.
Yeah.
If I can't help you, I'll try to point you towards someone who can. But if I can help, then I'll want to.
Yeah, sounds good. And also available for consultation.
Totally.
Yep.
Not supervision. Consultation.
Because there's such a huge difference between the two.
Massive, night and day.
Night and day. I'm just going to say that publicly to acknowledge that. And okay, thank you. This is awesome. Thank you. I also want to just mention that if you are just enamored with the sound of my voice and you want more of it, I have another podcast that I'm doing. It's called Honorable Evolution. And what it is, Honorable Evolution.
It sounds great already.
Yeah, thank you. So what it is it's just, I'm trying to celebrate people who have prioritized the hell out of health, okay, to figure out what is health. And so I'm talking to everybody from musicians to artists to badass yoga nuns to black belts to everybody that I can get a hold of who are just supremely healthy to see if we can't spread some good news about health.
Oh my gosh, I have a person I need to send your way.
Okay, please.
But I'm getting stronger. They take a piece of me. But I'm getting stronger. They take a piece of me. But I'm getting stronger. They take a piece of me. But I'm getting stronger.